right? We don't even have euro or yen. I mean, it's tiny, infinitesimally small. I think all currencies eventually you'll have stable coins for. Why is there only dollar stable coins now? Because that's the demand, right? So you can't tell me, oh, is the dollar going away? It's not going away. It's just it'll be represented digitally. It already sort of is in the old world, but the way it is in the old world is not yet fungible with everything that's in the new world, because the old world is not residing.
Despite the official narrative that all is well, the past few years have significantly eroded confidence in the US dollar. The excessive money printing in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and the decision to allow inflation to run too hot for the Fed to acknowledge the problem have all contributed to this. The faulty narrative that the US can print as much as it wants because it is a superpower, and the issuer of Bernstein said the US government can't go bankrupt because we can print as much money as we need, but he couldn't explain why that would be devastating for the economy. The video showed the arrogance, ignorance, and recency bias of policymakers like Bernstein who refused to acknowledge a pressing issue. This lack of awareness might lead to a situation like Japan's, where the yen is trading at multi-decade lows against the US dollar due to bad economic policies. According to 10T Holdings CEO and managing partner Dana Tapiero, these experts have drawn parallels between Japan's 260% debt to GDP ratio and the US 130%. Unlike some other prominent personalities in the digital asset space, Tapiero is not predicting the imminent demise of the dollar or a doomsday scenario that will suddenly see the dollar lose its relevance among fiat currencies. But he acknowledges that Bitcoin's rising popularity and adoption poses a challenge to the dollar. Tapiero envisions a future where Bitcoin is the reserve currency and the dollar is only an alternative. He spoke to OPTO with Skybridge Capital's Anthony Scaramucci about the US dollar, economics, and Bitcoin. Please like, subscribe, and set on post notifications for more videos like this as we provide highlights from the informative discourse. Your work greatly aids the YouTube algorithm and channel growth.
Yeah, I mean that's the invention of Bitcoin, is that it's, the code, it's unhackable, and the proof of work algorithm of course supports that. But I think that's the innovation, that it's completely secure. And that's why digital gold, it's completely, the security apparatus is just unbreakable. But I think there's also something more going on, which is that it's not just money that can be sent. I think all value eventually will be placed on a blockchain. And so there's some things that you don't need the intense security apparatus of Bitcoin. You don't need that to send a $5 transaction when you're buying coffee. There might be other chains that are faster for that, right? The finality of settlement is what's important on Bitcoin. Sometimes if the transaction is enormous, it can take a little while. Like a minute, a little while, as opposed to some of these other blockchains where it really becomes, a second or less or whatever it is. So it's a whole new world. Anthony's right. Where the value placement on blockchain has been delayed. But we're there now. And it's just that there's a huge incumbent community, i.e. the entire existing financial architecture that's been built up over the last 50 years. And you can't snap your fingers and have that go to zero overnight. So I actually think, maybe Anthony, you can chime in on this too, but I think there'll be at some point some sort of integration. The old guys are not completely going away. I think that, I think you'll start to see them meet in the middle a little bit, right? Our space, this digital asset ecosystem shouldn't be seen so much as a threat. It's an opportunity for some of the old guys to adapt and, grow their businesses as well. Some of them won't, and they'll go away, and the smart ones will. And I think we're at the very beginning of that. Yeah, people should stop with that. The dollar, there are 125 other currencies that will go to zero before the dollar. So the dollar is the supreme currency and will continue to be, certainly for a very long time, in my view. I mean, it's achieved network effect to such a degree It's almost to the same degree as gold. I mean, gold is something that, every single person on this planet, no matter how poor or rich, no matter, where they're living, everyone knows what gold is. And just a little behind that is the dollar. So I'm not worried about the dollar. I think, look, Bitcoin is of limited supply. And yes, over the last 10 years, the dollar has gone down 99% against Bitcoin. But just understand this, every single asset that exists in the world has gone down 99% against Bitcoin, right? If you do that chart, Anthony and I have talked about this before. So it's not about the dollar going away. It's about investing in an asset where the supply is limited, that is a unique asset that is at the core of the entire digital asset ecosystem, the entire digital asset world. So that's something that's very valuable, and that has achieved network effect already. So, but is the dollar going away? I wish people would stop talking about that. I had this conversation with Tim Draper a few weeks ago. I'm like, Tim, just rein that in. The dollar is not, he says, within 7 years, I could see the dollar going. Dollar's not going away. It's just Bitcoin is an alternative, right? And maybe at some point, 20 years from now, the dollar will be the alternative. I don't know. Or maybe, people like to have choice. And look, it's no surprise that the invention of Bitcoin came about after 2008, the crisis in '08. Many people felt that was not handled correctly by the U.S. authorities. And there was extreme quantitative easing, extreme increasing of the money supply. And people said, you know what? Look, we like gold. We think that's limited supply. Even, 1% a year of supply is increased to the gold supply. Okay. But you know what? We'd like to have something that had a mathematical equation backing it where the supply could not be increased. And so there's no mystery as to why in October '08 and then in '09, why Bitcoin was formed out of that period. So that's what it is. It's an alternative. Could it possibly come to dominate all value in the entire world and everything of value move to that? I mean, even if it did, take a look at the stablecoin market, right? That's fiat currency that's backed by a digital representation, digital tokens, mostly on the Ethereum network. They're huge. 4 years ago, there were 0 stable coins. And last year, I think it was almost $10 trillion of stable coins were settled. 10 trillion. How many things do you know of in the world that go from 0 to 10 trillion in 4 years, right? The opportunity in the US is for the US to get more involved. All those stable coins are dollar based, right? We don't even have euro or yen. I mean, it's tiny, infinitesimally small. I think all currencies eventually you'll have stable coins for. Why is there only dollar stable coins now? Because that's the demand, right? So you can't tell me, is the dollar going away? It's not going away. It's just it'll be represented digitally. It already sort of is in the old world, but the way it is in the old world is not yet fungible with everything that's in the new world, because the old world is not residing.
A lot of big tax companies are starting to accept Bitcoin and other digital currencies. This is something that no one thought would be possible even 2 years ago. BlackRock, which runs the biggest spot Bitcoin ETF, is also the biggest asset manager in the world, with more than $1 trillion in assets under its care. While the FBTC Bitcoin ETF was being released, Fidelity, a global financial services company, took care of about $5 trillion in assets last month. One of the biggest investment management firms in the world, Millennium Management LLC, said it had put about $2 billion into Bitcoin ETFs, making it the company with the biggest investment in the market. Companies like pension plans, hedge funds, insurance firms, and others that turned down Bitcoin when it was worth a lot less are now investing in the space, and there will be a lot more to come in the talk. Tapiero talks about his thoughts on Bitcoin and the US dollar and how he thinks they might switch places in the years to come. Here are some more clips from the chat.
For me, we have my partner Brett Messing. He's a Bitcoin maximalist. Then I have my partner John Sfoulos. He's a Ethereum maximalist. Okay, so these guys are all very different, and so I happen to feel that there's room for these things other than Bitcoin. I see Bitcoin as money, and I see these other things as rail systems where you can contract on them and move contracts back and forth between each other and potentially tokenize assets on them. And so the question is there room for things like Ethereum and things like Solana and possibly others? I believe that there is. And I do believe that we'll be sitting here someday. There'll be a stable coin. Maybe it'll be a Solana-backed stable coin, or you pick the layer one technology that the stable coin sits on that we end up transacting with every day in every which way. It's literally sitting in our wallet. I predict that my grandchildren will not that they won't have access to it because I still think it'll be with us, but they won't need paper money in their pocket.
In other news, on-chain Bitcoin analyst Wiley Wu believes Bitcoin will hit $1 million per coin by 2035 due to an explosion in adoption. His pinned tweet on Twitter reads, "On track for $1 million per Bitcoin is fair value by 2035 if we take the user growth curve as a guide for valuation." Before the 1,000th user, Bitcoin had no price. Discovery began with New Liberty Standard in Mt. Gaw in August 2011, then Bitstamp launched and we had numerous global exchanges to price the set. After 2012, prices fluctuated with user count. Wu forecasts that as acceptance expands exponentially, values will follow, reaching $1 million per Bitcoin by 2035 and even higher during bull market peaks. Recently, he tweeted that Bitcoin will 10x in the coming years and become a global reserve asset like the US dollar and euro. The financial world today believes Bitcoin is a fast-emerging asset class, which is worth in tens of trillions. The world believes price will 10x from here, rival the US currency, and become a reserve asset. In a follow-up tweet, he says these events are most likely to happen when global adoption hits 25 to 40%, which he expects in the 2030s. Do you agree with Wiley Wu reserve asset and $1 million Bitcoin price prediction? Please comment below and like the post. Subscribe to the channel and watch our other videos with bullish predictions and insightful analysis from industry experts. Thanks for watching.